Clive Barker Podcast Audio Commentaries.
Thanks to your generous donations to our Kickstarter funding campaign,
Clive Barker Podcast presents Fundraiser 4. Okay, so we're back. This may be our last audio commentary for a while, because I can't think of any more. Can you?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, I think we've pretty much done a thorough audio commentary of a lot of movies that Clive Barker was involved with.
Yeah. So
honestly, unless we can get a copy of Barn of the Blood Llama,
right,
which
and then Sleepwalkers.
And Sleepwalkers, yes. I mean, we could do Sleepwalkers. I would totally be up for it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fun because I haven't seen that since it came out.
I have the VHS of that, the commercial VHS that I got.
I used to have that. I bought it when that came out, but
it's a great film. Someone gets stabbed to death with the corn. Corn cob.
that was why I didn't like it.
Oh man.
But
Cob kebab.
Yeah, but this one is quite a bit more serious movie.
Oh yeah.
As you're joining us, it's Gods and Monsters, and if you don't know, you may be wondering why we're doing an audio commentary for this. Clive Barker was pretty involved in this movie as a producer.
Mm-hmm. He was an executive producer in this movie, along with another person. Let me see what my notes say here. Oh yeah, Stephen P. Jarkow. That was the other executive producer this movie had. And
and where we're at with the movie, when you first started up, if you're joining us and you have this movie to watch, I have it on iTunes, but it may be on Netflix or somewhere, but if you have it paused at the screen that says Lionsgate Films, Showtime, and Flashpoint in association with BBC Films present, that's the screen that we're pausing it on.
That's right. So whenever you say the countdown, we can hit play and you'll be synced up with us on this audio commentary.
Okay, so here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. Is my sound coming through on there?
Yeah. Doing
that's
fine.
That's a little loud. I might turn it down a little bit.
Oh, I just realized I'm also listening to the sound of the movie, but that's fine. Okay, a Bill Condon film. He was the director, and he also did the screenplay adaptation, for which he won an Oscar.
And it's an adaptation of a historical novel, right, by Christopher Braham?
Yes, a novel called Father Frankenstein by Christopher Braham in 1995.
Oh wow! So that book only came out was 3 years.
3 years,
and that was 2 years before they had started production on this.
Right. So David Dukes here plays James Whale's companion, partner.
And
a movie producer.
Clive Barker actor Kevin J. O'Connor, who was Philip Swan.
Yes, in Lord of Illusions.
Yeah.
We got Brendan Fraser here playing Clayton Boone.
Yeah.
Who is the gardener of director James Whale, here played by Sir Ian McKellen. So I always admire the physicality of Brendan Fraser. He's always been like a very, a pretty big, handsome-looking dude. And this movie he's playing the part.
Yeah, he does a really good job, and it's interesting how the character arc that he goes through, I guess, because he's kind of he's in a way kind of I guess a child, or he just kind of floats through life.
Exactly. He's kind of aimless,
and he really is. We're going to find that he really looks up to this, James Whale character because because he was famous and he became somebody.
Well, you have that great opening shot that we didn't talk about of the creature walking through the cemetery. You know, it kind of represents that the monster is loose. The monster's wandering aimlessly in life, kind of like Brendan Fraser's character.
Yeah, yeah. Executive producers Clive Barker and Stephen P. Jarchow. Or Jarchow.
Woo!
Yeah. So we got a little bit of a sneak peek into how involved Clive Barker was with this movie. We know that he had maps to the shooting locations and he had like 4 revisions of the screenplay.
Yeah. So there's we I don't know. Should I say who we got this from?
Oh yeah. No, probably not.
Okay. So I'll just say, yeah, we got our hands on some interesting stuff. Some scripts with revisions, blue revisions, pink revisions, you know, the stuff that, you know, different stages of production include different colors, pages into the script sometimes. And weekly planner with like call sheets for the shootings and what they were going to do that day, what sort of tests they were going to do, what sort of interior, exterior shots they were going to do, and a map depicting several of the locations where this movie was shot at, including which was the house of George Cukor, where they pretended to make the party and all that stuff. So very interesting stuff we got our hands on thanks to Tweety Bird.
Yeah, right. And I never, you know, the first time I saw this movie, I never recognized David Dukes, who was in Rawhead Rex. You have no idea how I feel.
He's the father of the kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I just realized that. Good
because
catch.
Because of your goddamn stupidity, my son is dead.
I didn't recognize him here. That's really
so
cool.
There's two you know, Clive Barker acting alumni in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. So when David Lewis, the big Hollywood producer that was James Whale's partner for over 20 years, when he died in 1987, his executor and the Whale biographer James Curtis had his ashes interred in a niche across from Whale's.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
It's a nice aside there.
Yeah, I mean, so he was his partner, but they seem a little cold and kind of angry, silently angry with each other. In this
film. I guess they ended up, you know, not being too close in their later years, I guess.
Yeah, and you get the impression that he's angry at James Whale for kind of not caring about the film industry or his reputation, and
of course, because he was still a Hollywood producer and he was producing movies and stuff. So yeah. I guess he resented him a little bit for being a little too outspoken sometimes.
Yeah. You know, and it's really interesting because there's it seems like you can see why Clive Barker would want to make this movie, because there's I mean, Clive Barker's not an old man like James Whale, but there's some really good parallels between the two characters.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I mean, they both got into the movie business. They both are gay artists.
Painters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is a certain... I'm a little reluctant to draw certain parallels. But obviously, yeah, there are some similarities here.
And
yeah.
They both stopped directing movies when somebody screwed with their film.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody who has some sort of artistic integrity would do the same.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of directors out there that just figure it's just part of the deal.
I guess that's true. It's probably unfair.
They just go on and, you know, go on to the next one and hope they have better luck next time.
Yeah, like they play the game so they can do the movies they want to do. They have to do a lot of like chaff, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe they don't feel the same attachment, you know, to their movies as
sure.
Clive Barker would.
So here we are at James Whale's studio. Very comfortable looking place.
Yeah.
It looks like he hasn't been here for quite a while. Everything is covered up.
Yeah.
So. But you can tell in the background, those paintings are supposed to be certain reproductions that he did of famous paintings, like Rembrandt's or Cézanne.
Yeah, that was an interesting. That was interesting that I wonder why he would just recreate, paintings instead of doing his own.
Huh. Well, kind of like this childhood scene. You can actually like almost imagine that it took place in Liverpool in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a very charming, very neat man, wasn't he? I mean, James Whale, every time you see a photo of him, he's always very well combed and dressed spot on.
I did some Google searches to see what he looked like, and I mean, he doesn't really look very much like
right. His features
Ian
were a little
McKellen.
Softer than Sir Ian McKellen, yeah.
Yeah. He was kind of a shorter, rounder type person, right?
Mm-hmm. So is going to get interviewed by someone from the university, and here he is posing a little bit to pretend like he's a very busy man, very profound.
Yeah.
Lost in thought.
Oh, I forgot you were coming.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's a certain theatricality to James Whale's personality, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's totally fawning. He's a total, completely, fawning fanboy.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's another parallel to Clive Barker, right? Because he's you could see Pinhead and Hellraiser as like Frankenstein.
Right.
The thing that people always want to remember him by, even though he's done so much more.
Exactly. To quote him on an Anchor Bay Hellraiser box set, I hope this is the last time I talk about this son-bitchin' movie.
Yeah, right.
And that was back in 2004 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and still here we are.
He's got so many. I mean, Hellraiser is great and everything, but he's got so many more important works and.
Of course, just look at Abrad, for example, or the Books of the Art.
Yeah,
Cabal.
Yeah.
It's almost a blessing and a shame that Imagica has not been turned into a TV show yet. I mean, here's hoping.
Yeah, well, it's terrifying and it's exciting at the same time.
Okay, here we start to see that there's a certain these flashbacks are part of something deeper that's affecting James Whale.
So because they've focused in on that chimney a few times now, and I'm wondering if there's some kind of significance to it. It's like a factory.
Well, it was reminding him that he grew up in Dudley, in the Black Country area of the English West Midlands, where he had a pretty hard life growing up as a queer boy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy back then.
Didn't they put him to work in the factory, I think?
At age 14, yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard. 20s in London.
Yeah. So this is in the 50s, right? Is that when this movie takes place?
Yes, this takes place in 1957.
Oh, okay.
Shortly before, of course, James Whale passed away.
Yeah. How historically accurate is this?
Well, I think the character of Clayton Boone, of course, is completely fictitious. That never existed. What happened was that James Whale did have a series of strokes, and he was in pain, and he basically, like we will see, he was a man who probably believed that he had nothing to live for, and then one day he ended up dying in his own pool. His innkeeper did find him. Yeah. Allegedly, when she called the police, their message was that Mr. Whale is at the bottom of the pool. Those were her words, yes. Yeah, here it is. It's the horror movies you'll be remembered for.
Yeah. Yeah, and like with Clive, there are so many people that just want to make him a horror author, and
exactly. So he ended up escaping into what he called the fantastique or the dark fantastic.
Which is a better place than just quitting altogether and just kind of hiding out in your house.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. McKellen, this is your live strip poker version.
Yeah.
This movie has great photography.
Yeah.
Stephen Katz did the photography for this movie, and I particularly like the black and white parts.
Yeah, the cinematography, and I also love the score.
Mm-hmm. Very beautiful.
You know what's really interesting is that a lot of the questions that this guy asks, he gets kind of really short, curt answers. And then the whole thing is over, but he opens up to Clay, and you hear a lot of the answers to questions that this guy would have loved to know. Right,
exactly. Well, he's not paying too much attention to him because he kind of figured him out already. Yeah. I mean, as soon as he starts laughing in the foyer, I think he looks at him like he just figured him out completely. He's like, all right, this guy's a fanboy. He's also gay like me, and is here because he's just gushing like a schoolgirl, so to speak. You know, that is what it is.
Yeah.
And with Clayton, it's more like a confessional. You know, it's not something that's being demanded out of him by Clayton. It's something that he offers.
Yeah.
This movie is really good, so it's going to be a little hard sometimes to find things to talk about because you're going to find yourself getting engrossed into the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Cukor.
So this was 1998, right? It's amazing how long ago it was. It still feels like a new movie.
Well, I think this might have been shot in the summer, July of 1997.
Yeah.
According to the documents that we had.
Came out in 98. I mean, it's kind of a shame that Clive Barker didn't executive produce more movies like this.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And Bill Condon ended up making Twilight sequels.
Really?
Yeah, he did. Well, he got paid handsomely for it, I guess. So, Go Bill Condon.
What else has he done?
Well, I would have to look. Let me check.
Okay.
All right. Start talking about something.
Okay. Right. Yeah, we can't edit this out this time.
Okay. He did Kinsey in 2004, Gods and Monsters in 1998, Dreamgirls in 2006, which is a big movie. Of course, Kinsey was about the Kinsey Report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with Liam Neeson. And he did Twilight Breaking Dawn. He also shot a really good movie, another one with Ian McKellen called Mr. Holmes, which I recommend.
Oh, okay.
And, of course, recently he did Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson.
Oh, right. The live-action version of the,
That's right.
Disney one.
Yeah, where the teapot people and the furniture people are really weird looking.
Right. Yeah, I have not seen that. So he directed that.
Yes.
That's a pretty huge job. I mean, that's a pretty huge.
Oh, sure. Working for Disney? Are you kidding me? Yeah.
That's amazing. I've heard that movie made huge amounts of money.
I like the way that they shoot this scene here.
Yeah.
Where they skew the camera angle, and it kind of puts us in a perspective we're not expecting.
Yeah.
Kind of throws us off a little bit to give us that idea of confusion.
Yeah.
It's
I don't think I've seen that Twilight movie. Is that the second one, or I don't even know?
I think it's one of the parts of the last two or something.
Oh, okay. I think I saw the first one, and I thought the first one was kind of all right. And then I saw the second one, and I thought it was terrible, and I'm never watching any more of these.
I saw half of the first one, to be honest, and I never really caught on to the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, here's Lynn Redgrave playing Hannah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because luminol is kind of what do you call the class of medication that this is for? Let me check that real quick. Yeah, phenobarbital. It's an anti-epileptic drug. Mm. And for a while in my childhood, I was treated for epilepsy. Luckily, I was a very mild case, so I never really experienced any problems with like seizures or anything, except for very 2 or 3 times. But wow. I had to go on luminol for a while. It was kind of a heavy drug to put on a child.
Does it have bad side effects?
Well, not that I can think of, because I was considered cured a long time ago. So.
Oh, okay.
So what he really had here was a stroke.
When I was about 7, when they drew my blood and said, hey, we're going to take your blood, and I thought they were going to take all of my blood and kill me.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I passed out on the floor, and when I passed out, I sort of clenched my muscles in my arms and crossed my arms together across my chest.
So they couldn't draw blood.
No, I mean, it would happen while I was unconscious, and they thought.
I see.
They thought I had that I might have some kind of seizure disorder, so they hooked me up to EEG machines.
Yeah, I had like 2 or 3 of those done. Yeah, when I was a toddler.
But turned out not to be anything like that.
Right. It was just you were just afraid and you got scared and you fainted.
Yeah.
So that's what it's going on here. This is an EEG, electroencephalogram.
Yeah.
Where they measure the waves, electrical waves in your brain.
Yeah, and you have to hold totally still and not even blink your eyes for.
Yeah, and then they offer you some sort of tests or something, that you have to do.
Yeah.
Again, this movie has great art direction, I think. It really transports you to 1957.
It feels real too, not like an idealized Norman Rockwell, 1950s, but it feels like, real people and real life. It just feels really believable.
I guess that comes from the brilliant cast that they've had for this movie.
Yeah.
There's a picture at Sir Ian McKellen's website where he's on the set of Gods and Monsters doing that scene where they're pretending to shoot the actual Bride of Frankenstein. And there's a picture there with Clive. And I think there's Sir Ian McKellen on one side. And there's, who's the other person? I don't want to lie, but I think it's supposed to be like Colin Clive. Anyway, so it's a nice picture, but it's very tiny and I can't find it anywhere else. So we'll probably put that one in the show notes.
This is kind of a funny,
I like this shot
funny
here.
Little cheat here.
Yeah. It's like he's imagining what would happen if he took all of them.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a phenobarbital overdose. Yeah, that would be dangerous.
He says, ha ha.
Not tonight. Haha.
Yeah.
I still have to watch the last episode of The Sopranos. He's literally drawing a foot.
Yeah. But it's not bad. I mean, it's not like a mess like, what we see later.
Right. And I got to play George of the Jungle later.
Oh,
that movie's so terrible, by the way. Don't watch. Yeah, if you're listening and you're considering watching George of the Jungle, don't.
Okay.
It's horrible.
I remember the old cartoon, but I've never seen the live action movie.
Oh, I never saw a cartoon. I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, it's from like the 60s. It has a theme song. Weird Al sings the theme song for it on I think Dare to Be Stupid.
Oh, the album. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a big Weird Al Yankovic fan, so.
George of the Jungle, friend to you and me.
And then they made the movie so terrible. They have these shots where someone falls and their head falls on a pile of animal dung, and then someone says, "This is the part where we throw our head backs and laugh." Ha 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 ha. And I'm like, no. Yeah, no, doesn't work.
Yeah, that. Also, I kind of never. I always had kind of a grudge against Brendan Fraser because of The Mummy. Just because Clive Barker didn't get that movie.
Oh, I see.
It's like that's the Mummy that I hated, and it was like a pop movie, but I don't feel like that now. I'm not really that interested in it, but I'm not. It's not Brendan Fraser.
I guess there wasn't. Right, yeah. Well, I guess we were told once that Clive Barker's The Mummy never really got past a very preliminary stage, so it was more like a kind of a pitch thing.
Yeah,
right.
Well, but reading in the body book, it from the interviews with Clive and Mick Garris, it sounds like Clive made a pitch, but Mick Garris wrote a whole script. And then they turned that one down, so he wrote a whole new script that was based on a different idea. And then that one didn't make it either.
I've seen, some of the first movies that I may have seen when I was a small kid that really made an impression on me, and they weren't like animated cartoons or anything like that, were probably like some heavy hitters in like the black and white genre, like, Nosferatu or Metropolis.
Yeah.
When Metropolis made a comeback.
Right.
After Giorgio Moroder scored the old version of Metropolis and all that.
Yeah.
And it was in Radio Gaga, not Radio Gaga, but it was a music video from the Queen. And Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah. And,
The Wolfman. Those were movies I really watched on TV, and I loved those. And then years later, Universal came out with the Legacy DVD collections. And then I got all of them. So...
If I've seen like Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, it was when I was really little and I don't remember. I mean, it's possible, but I also read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in college, so I might be confusing my memory of reading the book with the movie. So I don't know.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I read that book in high school after I had read Dracula. And I was like, oh, that was really cool. Let me see if I can find out there's a book on Frankenstein. And I got that version, and I read it. So that was really cool.
Frankenstein's really good, but Dracula is boring.
Yeah, you told me you don't like that style of writing where it's letters and diary entries, right?
Yeah. Yeah, which also makes it so I have a hard time with H.P. Lovecraft. Because a lot of his are people writing in journals and stuff.
Ian McKellen here is just brilliant throughout this whole movie. This is maybe one of his finest performances. For me, I think this, apart from a couple other like British productions that I may have seen, I remember seeing him in other things, but this was probably the one where I finally paid attention to Sir Ian McKellen as an actor. This was the one that really broke through for me.
Do you think, is he made up to look older than he really is, or is it just because this is like 19 years ago, or is it just he just doing a good job in his performance, conveying that he's kind of an old man? Because I don't think he was really that old, when he made this.
Well, here he was in his 60s, I think.
Yeah, but he looks more like, a 79, 80-year-old.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't remember how old James Whale was when he passed. Let me check that real quick. He died at 67.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't really that old.
Right.
Just had serious medical problems.
Well, he had really light colored hair.
Yeah.
So that automatically makes you look older.
Yeah.
I love this maid. She's or innkeeper, I should say.
Yeah.
Housekeeper. Not innkeeper. Housekeeper. If I'm a little confused, it's because honestly, if you follow me on Facebook, you may have found out that I've adopted 2 small kittens recently, and they've been keeping me up for like the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
it becomes a whirlwind of cleaning the litter box and feedings, which I didn't I didn't know it was going to be like this. Anyway,
Hey, are you gonna have 4 cats then?
I guess. Well, I'll tell you what. We already named them, and like you told me the other day, it's like, hey, once you name your cats, that's it, game over.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I'm hoping that if the cats get along fine with our other cats, then yes, we'll keep them.
You should put.
If we find there's irreconcilable differences, then yeah.
Oh, we put when we had 2 cats.
What were you going to say?
When we had 2 cats, we put the litter boxes out in the garage, and then we wouldn't have to have them in the house with us.
Oh, so your cats were outdoor cats?
No, they just went through the door.
They had okay, they had a little cutie door for the garage.
Actually, we just left the door between the house and the garage open all the time. So because Bosco was too dumb to go through the cat door, or too afraid. He would put his face through, and then he would go, "Nope, I'm not going." And we'd try to push him, and he wouldn't go through. And so we eventually just, even though we put a hollow core door on there and cut a hole in it and put a cat door on it, and he just wouldn't use it. So we just would leave the door open all the time.
Okay.
I still leave that door open all the time now because it's just a habit.
Well, let's say for now I'm fostering 2 extra cats, and if the cats get along, then yes, we'll consider keeping them. If they don't get along, we'll make sure to get adopted as a brother pair. So
that's a good idea. So they're both boys?
Yeah, because I'd hate to break them up. Yeah, they're both boys.
Yeah.
Phobos and Deimos. I like the excuse that James Whale gave here. It's like, oh, your shirt is so white and distracting. Why didn't you just take it off?
Yeah.
But another parallel here with Clive Barker is that Clive Barker likes to propose to people to pose for him, even though they may not even know him from anywhere.
Actually, yeah.
Like, didn't he do that to one of your friends once?
Yeah, he did. Yep, yeah. I have a friend that's like 6'3", huge, tall guy, and he had super long hair down to the middle of his back and a long braid. Adam, he's in the Kung Fu Dragons movies and stuff. He was with me, because I had him carrying books and stuff for me, so because we could only have 2 books at a time at a book signing. And his when we were done with the line, his assistant ran over to Adam and said, "Hey, Clive Barker wants you to come to his house to pose for paintings." And he gave him a business card and with the address and phone number on it. He said, "Contact us. We'll get it set up." And Adam was like, "No, thank you."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was like, "Aw."
Right. Well, I guess he didn't really... Did he read Clive Barker's books, or was he just there to hold another couple of books for you?
I think he may have read one or something because I insisted that he do it.
Okay.
He wasn't a fan.
Sure.
Anything. Yeah. Didn't mean much to him, but, I would have wanted him to go just so I could tag along.
Right, obviously, yeah. But I guess, it is kind of like a big deal for some people to pose, because you're being put under scrutiny, and some people may not be comfortable with that.
And Adam is a linguistics professor, and he had weird tattoos all over his arms and his body, and he has like a giant skunk going down his chest, and he has this language that he invented.
A skunk?
Yeah, I don't know. He thinks skunks are cool, and he has this language that he invented, and he wrote some big long.
So I guess he likes Pepe Le Pew.
And he wrote this big long message in his language on his arm, and he won't tell anybody what it means.
200 years from now, people are going to be studying that script and calling it like a mystery.
Yeah.
What's the name of that book that nobody knows what it says? I forgot. Codex something. Oh man, I forgot the name of it. There's a book that has all this like fantastic flora and fauna drawn into it, and it's written in a language nobody can decipher.
Yes, I've heard about that, but I know what you're talking about. But I don't remember what it's called either.
Voynich manuscript. That's what it's called. Anyway, I love, like you said, the soundtrack in this movie is really beautiful, and I love the soundtrack crescendo here that takes us away on this trip to the past.
Yeah, man, and he just gets hammered with these, and he says like there are 100 images at once. That would be really hard to convey in a movie, but they do a good job with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his physical portrayal of his own abstraction is very indicative of that sort of falling into himself.
Yeah. Yeah, and normally we do joke about movies and make fun of them and stuff, but there's not a lot to. I mean, there's not a lot of hilarious silly stuff in this movie.
No, not willingly, at least.
Yeah.
I like that split shot there with a lot of depth to it, where it's focused on both him and Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
It's not an easy shot to do.
Yeah.
I wonder if it involves some CGI or if there's actually a lens that can do that.
Yeah, this is interesting here where he's just hiding his drawing away. We find out later.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an interesting artifice to progress the story because, sometimes when you're posing for something, you always ask to see, hey, how's it going? How's that doing over there? Can I see it? Yeah. Everybody is curious to know how your painting is coming out. And he never really does that. And, of course, at the end, we'll figure out there's a reason for that. Hey, he could be cutting Richard Simmons' lawn.
Yeah, right.
And then he would come out dressed in short shorts and a tank top.
Yeah.
Oh man, I miss that guy. I also like the contrast between the shot of the studio, which is full of art, and it's a place of deep conversations, and a place that's shrouded in luxury and comfort. And then we go to this bar full of working class Americans in 1957. And it's the difference of class, of course, of not class, but, a social class.
Yeah.
That's a good comeback. Yeah. Snappy.
And there's
a young Philip Swan, yeah. Wow, I imagine watching the game on that TV for the whole bar.
Yeah.
Might as well be watching it on your phone.
Yeah,
but this TV, amazing set design.
Yeah.
I still remember bars having a tiny TV like that, put it on a stand behind the bar.
Yeah.
Of course, nowadays there's giant LCDs all over the place.
Yeah, right. And of course, he probably doesn't have a TV in his trailer. And it was interesting how he was pretending like he had no interest in seeing his own movie, with those.
Yeah.
Or with Clay, but now that he's on his own, of course, he's watching it. And
that was a friend of James Whale's, Thesiger. He played Pretorius in Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm. I wanted to watch Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein before this, but I just didn't make it. I'll have to do it. I've got
this brings. Mm-hmm.
I've got them saved on Amazon, so I'll just have to rent them at some point.
I still watch them sometimes. I have a box. I have the DVDs of the Legacy Collection, and I also have a box that came out that was on eBay. I'm Facebook friends with David J. Scull, the movie historian, and he said, hey, everybody, I got this box of mine, my personal copy. I'll autograph it and put a picture of myself in there, autographed, saying, dedicating it to you if you buy it on eBay. And it was maybe, I don't know, $70 or something. I bought it, and I have it here actually on my
That's cool.
next to the Scarlet box on my shelf. Yeah, it's signed by David J. Scull. He made a lot of special features for the Legacy Collection when it came out. And for Bride of Frankenstein and Dracula, you can see some scenes of Clive Barker being interviewed in those documentaries.
Oh, that's awesome. How many movies are in that set? I mean, which ones?
Ooh,
Is it
well, you got Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, the werewolf, and I think the monster of the Black Lagoon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be cool. It'd probably be cheaper to find something like that than to rent them all.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because whenever they show that scene of Elsa Lanchester as the Bride of Frankenstein, I once saw a tape of her talking where she came up with the idea of the hiss from looking at geese hissing.
Oh.
So that's where she got the idea to do that kind of like cool hiss that she does. That was a fantastic. There's going to be a great, fantastic recreation of the behind the scenes for this movie in this wonderful feature film. Right here.
Yeah.
Elsa Lanchester was in that. What's the name of that host from the 70s that interviewed a lot of people? Oh man. Anyway, this is a great behind the scenes.
Mm.
Runs to Rin Tin Tin. Poor Colin Clive. He was an alcoholic. He was a man fighting a lot of demons.
Mm.
He had a hard time doing this movie. Yeah, more like a touch of the bottle. But, you know, hey.
Oh.
Who wasn't an alcoholic in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
There's this podcast I listen to called You Must Remember This. And they do stories about classic Hollywood's first 100 years. And most of those actors, they had really, really crappy lives sometimes. Horrible childhoods, and then, you know, their careers and their later lives would be just terrible.
At this point, they probably weren't like mega stars to where they were millionaires or...
Well, Bride of Frankenstein was actually kind of a big budget production, I guess.
Mm.
But really, his biggest critically acclaimed movie was Showboat. It was a big mainstream blockbuster.
But people don't associate him with Showboat as much as they do with, like, Frankenstein.
Oh, right, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Looks like toilet paper is hanging on that wheel thing in that gear in the back there.
This is an extremely touching moment for myself in the movie. This brings kind of to a point what the magic of movie making is, you know, as something that becomes a little more than a sum of its parts. You know, there's the guy who does the catering, there's the guy who does the makeup, there's the guy who does this and that. But it's like the writing, the acting, the directing, they all kind of come together and they create this certain a certain life, you know, a certain reality of the movie. Yeah. You know, the creative aspect that elevates the business into art, I think, happens here. When those things converge and create that feeling of bringing something to life.
Yeah, it's interesting that he talks about, you know, he chose freedom, and he also says in another point in the movie, was it freedom is too much freedom is dangerous, I think, something like that. Yeah. Just the idea that
freedom is a drug.
Yeah, and he kind of regrets not staying in the business and doing more. He kind of stormed off when they screwed up his World War I movie.
Yeah, it's like Boone is so extremely immature. I mean, he's just going through the motions. He's not really that naive, but he's not organized. He doesn't know what to do with his life.
Yeah.
He's just extending his like teenage years into like his 20s.
Yeah, it's a little too bad. At the end of this movie, we see that he's become responsible, you know, parent and everything, but we don't really know, you know, the story of all that.
Mm-hmm. this kind of turnaround, it comes, I understand why she does what she does, why she reacts the way she reacts. But at the same time, it's like she's being super sarcastic to him.
Yeah.
And then for one moment, she actually goes down to the most direct communication possible. She doesn't do the tone anymore. She's really like saying, is this really all it means to you?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what did it mean to you? You're just kind of like, kind of pushing him around, but pushing him in a way that's a little almost humiliating, I guess it's what you call hard love.
Yeah. They're both settling.
Yeah. Here's a perfect counterpoint to that opening shot where we see the monster wander.
Yeah.
And now it's the director, the creator, Ian McKellen's character, James Whale, is wandering through looking for the monster, looking for his monster.
Yeah.
And it's going to evolve into this fantastic nightmare scene that's directed beautifully in black and white in the same style as Frankenstein.
Yeah, and this is great because, obviously it's on his mind that, he's got problems in his brain and
right.
And here he's getting a replacement.
It's pretty funny, though.
Yeah, it's like a big melon baller or something.
Yeah. It's Abby Normal.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just have to bring up Young Frankenstein here. I was going to put the head back, and James Whale is going to sing "Putting on a Ritz."
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Yeah, I have the DVD. Oh wow! But yeah, I love the style that they do this recreation in. And the guy who created that equipment for the movie, this equipment that we see here, he was an electrician, and he did such a good job with these weird looking devices that they ended up being used in other movies, including Young Frankenstein. Yeah, the actual equipment that was used for Frankenstein was used.
Oh, okay.
They brought it out of a warehouse and they used it in Young Frankenstein.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. I swear to God, from Mel Brooks's mouth. This is it kind of shows you the drab life that he's actually really living, I guess. His quality of life is decaying fast.
Yeah.
But Lynn Redgrave plays this amazing character, even though she's a little bit, purse-lipped housekeeper, very judgmental, very judgy. But at the same time, she's judgy in a way that's not.
Yeah, it's parental almost.
Yeah, it comes from what the priests tell her, she says. It's not like what she really believes, I guess. She has some love for James Whale here. She just really cares a lot about him. And she's very proper, too. She's like, well, you don't sit here in the kitchen. You go in the living room. This is an interesting back and forth.
Yeah, it's interesting here that he doesn't want to believe or doesn't believe that James Whale is gay, and it's just because of his background and probably not ever having known anyone that was.
Uh-huh. Well, in the bar, some guy says that, he's an old coot or something. I think he has this he understands that there's some queerness about James Whale, but he doesn't really understand if it's not just an affectation of being an aristocratic sounding.
Right, yeah. Right, because he also doesn't really know any famous people either.
Right. Even though he's mowing lawns in what seem to be very nice areas, there's one part where he says, well, I have to do another lawn at La Cienega.
Yeah. But he
Must
was
have been
hired
interesting
because
too.
he was cheap.
Right.
You said earlier, so maybe the other people have more, they probably aren't as rich as they, seem. Since he hasn't worked in 15 years.
Right. This performance here is just really, really good. It's a high moment of the movie for me. The unspeakable. Oh my God. Hey, it's LA. There's an interesting book. It's called The Mirror of Love. It's done by a photographer, Jose Villarrubia, and Alan Moore, the writer. And on the cover, you can read a endorsement from Clive Barker. Says, "Unique, beautiful, and immensely powerful. It belongs on everybody's bedside table. Wonderful." That's what Clive Barker had to say about this book. And it's basically just a giant poem written by Alan Moore and decorated throughout with photography. So it's interesting because I'm going to bring it up a little later in the movie. But I just wanted to introduce it here to recommend it to anybody who hasn't read it or have a chance of getting a copy. It's really nice. This is interesting. I'm interested in finding out if this was a real event, if this really happened.
So Princess Margaret, is that England?
Yes.
I assumed so, but I...
Yeah. Princess Margaret. He's going to ask him if anybody left.
Yeah.
It's one thing that nowadays certain audiences kind of do is they treat some movies as being kind of hokey, but you have to understand that back then they didn't know any better. Things were much more, they were much more repressed before they reached any sort of mass entertainment. They were completely like sanitized of any sort of sex or gruesomeness.
Yeah.
So when they did Dracula, there's even the character who plays the doctor that confronts Dracula, Van Helsing. He shows up just before the movie begins and gives an introduction to people, giving them a chance to stop watching the movie. Because you're about... Yeah.
Turn
like,
it
well,
off
we warned you.
now.
Yeah. Well, Clive Barker kind of did that with Mr. Begone. Or the book opens with, like, burn this book.
Yeah, not just opens. That goes on for a long time.
Yeah. Let me look at the documents that have the maps and see if I can figure out where this was shot.
There's one that says, like, some lady's first name's house.
I'm looking at a map to the Kukor house that it has days 1, 2, 3, June 30, July 1st, and 2nd. So I guess those were the days that we were going to work there. And it's close to the Santa Monica Freeway and the 210 Freeway. And interesting maps. Probably will be part of some sort of article about this later.
Yeah, I mean, I guess aside from the actors, this really isn't a super expensive movie to make because it mostly takes place inside this house or on the grounds of the house, right?
Yeah, there was a map to the whale exterior scene location, which was at 1220 Rancho Road, Arcadia.
Oh.
Yep. It says no parking at location. That's what it says here.
Oh.
Absolutely no parking at location. Map to whale interiors, 400 South Hudson, 715 through 722nd. This was July 15th through 22nd. That's where they were going to do.
Wow.
The shoot. So pretty interesting stuff here in these maps.
People in Hollywood would probably know where all those places are.
Oh, sure, yeah. You're a homosexual.
Yeah.
Something that a lot of straight men will say to a gay man once they find out that he's gay is one of these. And I was told this by a gay person, really. It's like, that's one of the first things they always say. Well, I'm not gay.
Yeah.
It's like, right.
Right.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And he had just asked him if he'd ever killed anyone, and asked him if he, killed anyone hand to hand.
But I think that his interest in Clayton Boone, I don't think it begins by trying to find his monster. I think it mostly starts by he's just interested in his big dumb look, like. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess maybe because he reminds him of the monster. Okay, sure, I'll give him that.
Oh, because he's got that flat haircut and.
Yeah, that's why they gave him the flat haircut. We were going to see that in another scene later in the film. I guess he's trying to gauge what sort of man Clayton Boone is, see what he can do.
Yeah. And he's been kind of tossing around the idea, but he's probably not serious about killing himself yet at this point.
Sure, but I think that keeping the charade of making his painting like he is, I think he's seriously considering it ever since the doctor told him what he can expect.
Yeah.
He's just probably trying to see if it's something that he can work with here, the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and probably maybe at this point he might be considering, well, maybe I could talk him into it.
Right. Well, this part of freedom and being free from a partner and the freedom is a drug. I'm not bringing this up without a good reason, but in Clive Barker's authorized biography by Dean Winters, The Dark Fantastic, they do mention a little bit that Clive always had this kind of reservation about conventional married life.
Yeah.
Which is why he found it hard to kind of commit to a certain relationship without,
and being monogamous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this 180 here.
Yeah.
The way he delivers this, almost very subdued, like he's revealing a secret to himself. I like that.
Yeah, I saw that you posted a screenshot of him saying that line on Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah, that is cool.
I do have to confess I don't know a lot about his filmography, James Whale. I do know that, Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. And
Showboat is a musical, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think I've heard of it in that context, but I've never seen it.
Back then, a lot of movies that came from the MGM and other studios were really musicals.
Yeah.
This kind of.
It seems like he's kind of prodding at him, just to see.
Yeah, trying to find his triggers. Yeah, what makes him tick. Yeah, here's the explosion that he does to assert himself a little bit, because that's the way he knows how to assert himself. He's very immature.
Yeah. Well, and geez, knocking over his coat rack, it's like he could just get fired for that. And from now on, I'm just the guy who cuts your lawn. There's like, no, you're not.
Here's a flashback to one of his pool parties.
Yeah.
Or George Cukor's parties. I don't know. I think it's supposed to be his pool.
I think.
Interesting thing. He got his pool after David Lewis got a pool for his own mansion. And James Will decided, was convinced to get a pool for his mansion as well, although he never swam in it. And that's on his Wikipedia page. You can check it out.
Is this? I didn't notice all that nudity before. Is this like a director's cut, or is it all the same? Probably all the same, I guess.
I think the movie came out in this form. I think.
Yeah.
But you're right. Male nudity is not a common thing in American movies.
I think that where they draw the line is if it's erect.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's like, that's the line between pornography and not.
It's the intention, I guess. If it's intention is to titillate, then yes, that's considered pornography. But well, basically, that's all a very strict.
Yeah.
When it comes to art, Jesus, if you go watch some French movies, you'll see a lot of nudity in those.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a little bit of the I don't want to call it Puritan, but the problem that America has with sexuality.
Yeah.
Here, after what Boone experiences as kind of a little death, I guess all men are contemplative after intercourse.
Yeah, we don't even see who the woman is, or
right. She's just another way for him to assert himself and try to understand. It's okay. Hey, I'm not queer.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, look how not gay I am.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Which he isn't, but it's kind of like this reaction that he has to reestablish his own mental balance, I guess.
Right.
From confusion. And here's a little hint on his family life. It seems like it's very poor.
Yeah. He's flipping a dime in his hand saying, I'm all out of dimes, because he doesn't want to talk to his father.
Right. He's interested. He's interested in knowing more about James Whale. I guess he feels like James is communicating with him in a way that most people around him don't know how to communicate. And that's interesting, when people actually communicate with you instead of just talking at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone has a story to tell. Uh-oh, here it comes. And here's the part where I bring the mirror of love back. There's a page in here, and this scene where he says, there are no atheists in the foxholes, but there are occasionally lovers. That was true throughout a bunch of wars in the world, but one that was particularly written about was the Spartan army.
Right, right, yeah.
Yeah. Almost male, the Mirror of Love, the poem that was written by Alan Moore says, the Spartan army ventured further. Male love was enforced, producing soldiers who defend their frontline lovers to the death.
Yeah.
Demanding tougher breeds, they exposed infants to the elements, particularly girls. Perhaps because of this, by the time Rome invaded, there were only 16 Spartans left.
Yeah, and they believed that men were superior to women, and that love between men was superior to love between men and women.
Mm. Here we're going back to the wars.
Yeah,
death keeps getting summoned into the movie story, right? I mean, the idea of death, the idea of the imminence of death, and the danger of dying, of destruction, of losing what you have keeps coming up, and especially the Great War. First World War was terrible.
Yeah, chemical weapons.
Yeah, I have a book from 1936 or something about the chemical wars that was waged in the First War.
Mustard gas.
Yeah, that thing was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, the people would puke up their lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Oh, this story about poor, is it Bernard or Bernie? I forget. Barnard?
Leonard Barnett.
Yeah, and he was stuck on that barbed wire fence.
Yeah. On the border with no man's land.
Yeah.
There are some really bad stories from those times. You know, there were giant rats roaming the no man's land, eating corpses and stuff like that, and sickness and decay all around. The sucking mud that would suck your legs up to the knees and stuff like that. That was really horrible stuff in the trenches. People had to stay with their dead comrades in the trenches for sometimes days.
Oh.
And nowadays we just use drones.
Right.
And smart bombs, and we're still killing each other.
Yeah.
It's a very intense performance here.
Yeah. So, and now it's James Whale's turn to have an outburst.
I think he literally got carried away here. I mean, obviously I don't think this was part of his plan for Clayton Boone.
Yeah, and it's as you're watching this movie, you start to realize that once he starts telling stories from the past, you know that it's gonna cause him problems because it's gonna make him have these flashbacks.
Mm-hmm. He wants his monster.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful story about Leonard Barnett and, you know, how love transcends socioeconomic separations. I mean, obviously he was a upper class kid, and he came from Dudley. Love is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
He was kind of coming a little close to speaking the truth about the portrait, but I think he still doesn't want to let up the jig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because at the same time, it's painful because he's a man coming to grips with what his life has come to, and he's trying to prepare his way out, I guess. And that can't be something you do without serious reflection. And in doing so, you have to deal with your own shortcomings and your own memories and your own weighing of what your life has summed up to be. I don't know if that's reading too much into it, but
no, I don't think so. I think a lot of the movie is just the juxtaposition of these two characters against each other, James Whale and Clayton Boone. How different they are.
Yeah, but at the same time, how they can communicate so easily with each other.
Yeah.
They really kind of bond throughout the movie, and then their friendship is kind of their bond. I wouldn't say friendship, but their bond is kind of tested out and prodded and made a little bigger due to all the poking and prodding, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's when you share like serious stuff with people is when you actually deepen like your friendship with them. And I guess you can't share more than when you're in a foxhole with someone who you think you're both about to die, and you know, it has to be something that you carry for the rest of your life about that person. And of course, here we see that he has a gas mask.
Yeah, you see that and you think, oh God, what's he going to remember now? But this gas mask is going to come back and play kind of a major part in the ending of the movie too.
Another story artifice here. Of course, the maid has to have some sort of thing that she has to attend, and she's not going to be home when they come back.
Yeah.
But, you kind of forgive it because, hey,
Something
you
like,
want to see where the story goes.
something like that must have happened, though, because he ended up, where he was.
That's true.
I don't know. I wonder.
They did have a live-in maid, though. I'm not sure if she spent the night there or if she would come back every morning and leave after dinner.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly how that went out. I do have a biography for James Whale, but I don't have it here with me. I have it back in Portugal, and it was actually published by the Cinematheque of Lisbon in Portugal.
Oh.
It's a very nice leather-bound edition and fancy shiny paper, lots of pictures.
Written in Portuguese?
Yes. Has Princess Margaret
Yeah.
and George Cukor.
So is George Cukor supposed to be dating Princess?
No, he was gay.
Well, yeah.
He was a movie
know.
director. I guess he entertained salons and entertained, people like her.
But it seems like he's getting mad, like you're going to give away my secret.
No, I guess it's just the impropriety of bringing it up, like a personal detail about someone, and you kind of bringing it up in a veiled, quite in your face way, I would say. Not so veiled.
And it wasn't very nice just to drag Clay here, just to kind of show him off and pretend like that's his boyfriend, just to make him jealous.
Right.
It's not very nice to Clay.
Well, this is kind of like a veiled insult right here. It's one of us old directors. And it's like, okay, well, let me return the favor.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the impropriety of bringing a gardener to meet Princess Margaret. It's just, it's kind of a subversive attempt at saying, I don't care about this.
Yeah, good point. I didn't even think about that.
It's like, hey, he's only met queens.
He looks so
I'm
mad.
sure. Yeah. Yo, bro, nice house. Everybody has those fancy hats. They look like they're going to see like a horse race.
Yeah.
And I love that we're going to see Mr. K return here.
Yeah.
There's David Lewis. Great match there great casting for a young Elizabeth Taylor there. Really looks like her.
And same with Boris Karloff, too.
Was it Abe Vigoda? It was Abe Vigoda, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Let me check real quick.
And
that's
here's David Dukes again from Rawhead Rex.
Right. A little bit of a jealousy scene here.
It had to be a woman.
Let's see, who plays Boris Karloff? No, actually, Boris Karloff is played by Jack Betts.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
He was in Spider-Man 2002.
Okay.
Let me see who he plays there. Henry Balkan. All right. Oh, I don't know who that character is.
Maybe he was one of the jocks or something?
I think he's pretty old. He's too old for that.
Yeah. Right, yeah, because that was after this movie.
You can see here that there's a little bit of that rivalry between the two of them because he kind of got caught at a party when he was supposed to be in New York. And at the same time, just to provoke him, he didn't know he was going to be there, but he has like the gardener come along, and it kind of makes the other guy jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can leave the tray.
Yeah.
And let's see if I can find out what this house was at. I think I already said it. It was actually in 1145 Arden, Pasadena, California, I believe. With base camp, with crew parking at the Del Mar Avenue in a corner next to it. It must have been really expensive to shoot locations in L.A.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Mr. K. And your strident laughter.
Yeah.
A social secretary. Yeah, it reminds me of someone.
Right.
Ah. He kind of called him out there. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, he says don't go away. He's obviously going to go away.
Well, he's trying, but he's not moving very fast.
Right.
He's like, oh, God, what have I done? I got to get out of here.
Well, yeah, for one, he's drunk. For another one, he probably thinks, he hasn't seen her in a while, and he's probably a little concerned about his looks and being old and stuff, so.
Yeah.
Dick Cavett Show. That was what I was going to say.
Oh,
I've seen Elsa Lanchester at the Dick Cavett Show, an amazing show. She was really funny. Very witty person. And she actually looks a lot like this actress here.
My stepfather, his voice sounds exactly like Dick Cavett.
Oh, yeah? That's a pretty good voice to have.
Yeah.
I just love finding old tapes of that, downloading them off the internet or going on YouTube and listening to the Dick Cavett Show. He interviewed some really amazing people. But I think some of his best shows are the ones where it's all kind of like off the cuff with Groucho Marx. And here's Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Another great split shot there with the two monsters, like his two monsters.
Oh, yeah, right.
One monster and the monster to be.
Yeah, good point. I didn't catch that before, that they were put together in that.
The monster. Just the other day, I saw Frankenstein 1970. Where Boris Karloff plays the Baron Frankenstein, but not the original one.
Oh, wow.
Another one of the line of successors that's going to bring back the monster.
Huh. And the monster
Meanwhile,
wasn't played by Boris Karloff.
Right. Meanwhile, they're making a movie about Frankenstein in the old Baron Frankenstein house. It's a really weird, wacky movie, Frankenstein 1970.
I think the worst one is I, Frankenstein. Have you seen that?
Yeah, with Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. It's you know what it is. It's a ride.
Movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's a ride. It's a movie ride. You go there to see the ride. Just like Van Helsing, that horrible movie. It's kind of a guilty pleasure, though.
Yeah, right.
Just because of the CGI and all that stuff. It's so over the top.
Release the Frankensteins.
And Dracula. I mean, come on. Dracula in that movie is nuts. Yeah. Oh, this moment here is so beautiful.
Yeah. So is that because he's drunk or he's having some kind of mental episode?
I guess so. He's having a moment, Yeah,
and he completely forgets that.
And he's drunk.
Later.
Right, exactly, yeah. Also, notice that the start of the movie has clear, sunny, warm days where people are about to go in the pool and stuff. Yeah. And as the movie progresses, the rain starts here, and then the storm will arrive later in the third act of the movie.
Yeah, right. It's so showing his mental degradation.
Yeah, here he sees Barnett again.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about how this won an Academy Award, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It got nominated for a bunch of stuff. Namely, let me just go through the awards. Of course, so he won one Oscar for Best Writing Screenplay based on material previously produced or published. Bill Condon received it. It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role for Sir Ian McKellen.
Yay.
Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Lynn Redgrave, who does a great job.
Yes, he does.
Won a Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role in a Motion Picture for Lynn Redgrave, and was nominated for Best Motion Picture in the Drama category and Best Performance by Actor in a Motion Picture Drama for Ian McKellen.
I wonder which ones it lost to.
Oh, yeah. We would have to look at what...
Right, we're kind of live here, so we don't have time to pause and, edit that back in. But.
And a bunch of other awards like BAFTAs and Screen Actors Guilds.
My favorite line of hers was that your movie is not my teacup or something like that.
Yeah. I think as a young guy, I think I may have seen Frankenstein in the room where my mother was, and she watched it. She liked it. She also thought that she felt really bad for the monster. Which I guess it's hard not to feel bad about the monster.
But Lynn Redgrave's character doesn't feel bad for the monster at all. She just thinks that all the ugly people are the bad guys.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a simplistic approach to it. Yeah, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
It's a monster. It's not like me. I don't like it.
She says all the good people, all the bad people are dead, all the good people are alive.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to attempt to get into my pants.
Yeah.
Very good, Clayton. It's back from when I weighed 40 extra pounds.
Yeah.
Everybody has baggy shorts. Come on. I want to know what a tailored pajama feels like.
Yeah.
I've looked up that idea that if there was a sketch that you could see of the original sketch of the monster. I couldn't really find it, but I found a drawing that James Whale did for sale on the internet. He was a good artist. The drawing actually was sold for $1,300.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I'll
and this one, the guy doesn't even frame it. He just keeps it in his shirt pocket.
Yeah. Well, I was listening. A lot of people don't care about stuff like that. I was listening the other day to a podcast with Larry Clark, the movie director. He was also a photographer. He made a book called Tulsa. It's really amazing. And he said that he would, take pictures of these young kids who were prostituting themselves and shooting drugs. And he would he would take pictures of them, and he would blow these pictures to 9x11 format and give it to them afterwards. And they'd be like, "Gee, thanks, Larry." And they would bend the photo in 4 and put it in their back pocket.
Oh.
So, a lot of people don't care about that. Same people, I guess, who fold the pages of their books. There should be a special place in hell for people who do that, because I don't like people who do that.
Yeah.
It's a big revelation here that he never went to the war because his appendix burst, so he was discharged.
Yeah, which, you recover from that and you're fine. He could have gone back, right?
Well, that's a good question. These kind of things usually take some time to recover, and I guess they wouldn't require you to enlist again, I guess.
Yeah.
Or after your chance is gone, I guess you just do something else.
Yeah.
I guess, he didn't really want to go to the war anyway. He just wanted to do it because his father was a Marine.
Yeah. Yeah, he could have ended up dying anyway.
Yeah, this is finally a story that he has to say about himself. We've been listening to stories about James Will all this time.
Yeah.
I would love to know if there's an interview with Brendan Fraser where he talks about working with Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
It must have been an amazing experience. Brendan Fraser, he did a great job in some of the Mummy films. The third one I didn't really like it that much, but
and then there was like the spin-off with The Rock, right? The Scorpion King. And there were like
yes.
sequels, direct-to-video sequels to the Scorpion King and stuff. And
right, there's like 3 or 4 or something,
yeah,
right?
it just sort of spun out of control into nothingness, kind of like.
I saw one of those.
Yeah.
I saw one of those. I thought it was interesting. It was kind of entertaining, at least. But you know how it is with sequels; they're always like worse.
Yeah, well, and they just turned it into a franchise that they milked to death until there was nothing left, and nobody had any respect for it anymore.
And nobody in that movie looks like a real Egyptian anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought, the original Mummy movie was, not original, but, the first one wasn't bad. But then they just kept getting worse and worse, and I don't know.
This is another story here that he brings up Barnett. This is almost basically a verbal summoning of death with this story. It places it over the dialogue like almost kind of like a mist, like
yeah.
The idea of death in their conversation is always present.
Yeah. Yeah, and here you hear this story and you start to worry, oh no, what's this going to do to him, reliving this memory.
Right. And this dehumanization, this desensitization happens in war just so you can stay sane.
Yeah.
You kind of make fun of death because you yourself think, well, what's the point? I'm probably going to die tomorrow or today.
Yeah. Another point where these two characters are opposite of each other because one wanted to go to war and he couldn't, and the other one didn't want to go to war and had to, and it was horrible.
Excellent point.
Yeah, when my father got back from Vietnam, when my grandmother would go to wake him up, she'd tap him on the shoulder or whatever, and he punched her in the face.
Oh, wow. So he kind of had a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder?
Oh, he had a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all throughout our upbringing.
Well, Vietnam was a big mess, really.
Yeah.
The average age for a Vietnam enlist was 19 years old.
I just found out from my mom that the new people in his platoon, their job was to go pick up body parts and scoop them up off the field. And he said he spent the whole day just throwing up. My mom told me about that just recently because he doesn't ever want to talk about Vietnam.
That is pretty powerful.
Yeah. He saw a guy in line accidentally touch the trigger on his M16 and shot the guy in front of him, like 10 times in the stomach.
Jesus. We have here this moment of unveiling where he thinks, well, you know what? I can see who you are, and I can see that you have nothing to live for anymore, but at least I'm going to give you what you want.
That's a pretty massive scar on his stomach.
Yeah, maybe it's put there because he had the appendix that burst.
Oh, yeah, of course.
From an appendectomy?
I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Well, I didn't notice it until you mentioned it, so...
I noticed the scar, but I never put it together. Yeah, and now here's where we sort of turn the corner, where he's starting to put his plan into action.
Right. He says, you're much too human, because he's not monstrous enough yet.
Yeah.
He wants to be destroyed by his own creation. To make it this kind of poetic kind of killing, right? I mean, he does ask him once, do you believe in mercy killing? I don't know why they put that makeup there in the Flash, because it just looks so hokey. It looks like a Halloween mask. I wish that they had made that Frankenstein a little more realistic.
To look more like the one in the movie?
Yes. Also, these things were hard to breathe in if you didn't know how to put them on.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he does have trouble, doesn't like it.
That must have been really hard to do anything with that thing on.
Yeah. Look at his field of vision is horrible.
And he does look monstrous here. He does look almost like, in a way, kind of like some of Clive Barker's monsters are very beautiful physically, but then their monstrosity comes in other ways, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
He was trying to see what would cause him to lose his mind so he could kill him.
Yeah. Which is not a nice thing to do to Clayton.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, he'd end up going to prison for that.
Right. Of course, I think this never happened because it was a complete suicide, but
yeah.
But it creates this interesting narrative of James Will trying to seek out the monster to kill him to end his life.
Yeah.
And it allows the audience to connect to Clayton Boone throughout all the story. Boone, in a way, is an everyman, right?
Right, yeah. Being kind of dragged into the life of this person.
Right.
So that we can follow along and learn about them.
It's a very unfair thing to ask of Clayton, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he comes back from the brink. A staggering performance.
Yeah.
I didn't really look for anything about what Clive Barker had to say about this movie, but let me just go ahead and do that now.
So this is reminding me, this just recently happened. My stepsister had a boyfriend that just killed himself in a car that was leased in her name. So now she's getting this car back with
Jesus, dude,
his exploded head all over the inside of the driver's seat.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's pretty horrible.
Yeah. So it's like, he wrote the suicide notes, to her saying like, "Oh, I'm sorry I was such a burden to you and I made so many problems for you." And it's like, well, you just did it again.
Well, it's hard to blame them. When something like that happens, it's hard to blame anybody. Here's what Clive had to say about this in his Confessions to Lost Souls newsletter, issue 5, October 1996. So before this movie came out. He says, a little while ago, a man called Christopher Brom wrote an excellent book called Father of Frankenstein, which is about the last few months of James Will's life. James was a great filmmaker who seemed to have a low opinion of the works he made. He directed Frankenstein, the original with Karloff, Bride of Frankenstein, The Old Dark House, and a whole slew of movies, including the original movie of Showboat, which are all wonderful pictures. In his relatively old age, in his late 60s, he had a stroke and was defuriated. He was a gay man who had been ostracized by Hollywood to some degree. The picture that Bram draws had this man who was really going back over his past and reminiscing about what he had achieved and failed to achieve. Bill Condon, who directed Candyman 2, was a huge fan of the book. I was a huge fan of the book. I put a quote in the book. So Bill said, "Do you want to produce this movie if I direct it?" And I said, yes. So here we are now. We are trying to get the deal into place. I think it could be very cool. Bill's script brilliantly interweaves the life of this man in the last phases of his life, remembering the points of glory, dealing with the fact of his imminent death. And I really like this ending shot. It kind of, to me, it kind of completes a little bit the third act of the movie.
Yeah.
What comes later is almost like an epilogue of sorts.
So this monster dragging him off is Clayton, it looks like.
Yeah, he's dragging him
into the war.
A dream of war is a dream of all wars, right?
Right.
From Hellraiser 3.
I was just listening to our commentary of Hellraiser 3. Today.
Oh, wonderful. Cool. Were you putting it up on YouTube?
No, I think on that one, that's just where I am. I got caught up on all my podcasts, so I just have.
Sure, wonderful. You've been doing a great job, and for those of you listening, please go to our YouTube channel, BarkerCast, because we've been uploading a bunch of our episodes there, a whole bunch of seasons, thanks to Ryan and Libsyn.
Yeah. So we've got. I've been working backwards, so we're down to episode 99 is the last one I put up, and we're at like 141, I think. Mm-hmm. So I've gone from 141 backwards all the way down to 99, are on YouTube. And
that's a beautiful shot. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and we have some of the original ones too.
Sure.
That you put up 3 years ago, I think.
Yes.
3 years ago.
That was a beautiful shot of Mr. James Whale laying himself to rest next to Leonard Barnett. And here is what I consider to be almost like an epilogue of the movie.
Yeah.
I love the way she talks. She almost talks like a Bela Lugosi in a way.
Yeah.
I guess she's supposed to be from like Eastern Europe or Germany.
Yeah, I think Germany.
Wake the master. Yes, master. Oh, here it is, the sketch of the monster. I want to know how he saw him in the pool through those trees. It's a good eye that he's got.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful shot.
This movie just kind of got, this time around kind of got to me about, how selfish it is for people to kill themselves. And
yeah, it's an act of desperation.
Yeah. I mean, in this case, it's different, but...
Well, obviously, sometimes there is a desire to inflict one last offense to the people left behind. That is part of it, I guess.
Yeah.
You can kind of construct it that way, but usually the main thing is just someone who is in pain and wants to end it.
Yeah.
Anna was a woman deeply in love with her master. She's part of one of those kind of women from that generation that they really love to nurture,
Yeah.
and then take care of things and be very formal and be nurturers.
Yeah.
Oh, she's Scandinavian. I see the subtitles say speaking in Scandinavian language, so Hannah is supposed to be Scandinavian. You'll keep better in water.
Oh, that's not true.
This is almost beautiful and pathetic at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, it's Hannah and Clayton here share a moment that's like
Yeah.
hard to describe.
Yeah, horrifying. And sad.
And sad, yeah. At the same time, his face looks peaceful. It's almost like a liberation of sorts as well, like he's floating away into some distant plane. And I love this final insert of Frankenstein. And they marry the soundtrack to the violin scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I love the idea of the generations that had the chance to enjoy all these classic movies on TV late at night on a weekend or a holiday. It kept these movies alive, you know, through their own merit and the ideas that they portray so elegantly, and then the universal nature of their appeal to this world that's infinitely more interesting than the one we live in. Teaching a generation to smoke.
I know.
Smoke, good.
Well, back then, doctors used to say it was good for you.
Oh, dude, they were sending soldiers to war, and they were giving them free cigarettes because it took away the jitters. You know, they were saying, well, your nerves are shot, just smoke a pack, and you'll feel calmer. And then years later, they don't have a trachea.
Yeah.
And they're suing the government for.
Yeah. Geez, look at how the titles get cut off by the edges of the screen.
Oh yeah, yeah. Old TVs used to do that. Or if you have a 720p TV nowadays and you're trying to watch a 1080p movie in it, kind of trims off a few.
Actually, my Kung Fu Dragons movies, there's a lot of junk that was hidden by the frame of the TVs that's not anymore. So you can see like me sitting there holding the script in one of the scenes that was hidden by that little border wall around the TV screen.
That's awesome. That message there for Clayton, friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did come to terms with what happened, and I guess he did understand that, like Whale says in the movie, the monster is noble and misunderstood. And I guess he understood that about James Whale as well.
All I could think of at the time was like, oh God, the kid's holding that picture up in the air, and it's gonna go. He's gonna drag it out into the rain, but then the kid's not here anyway.
Right. Which is nice because the rains fall over the monster, and Clayton starts stomping like Frankenstein. It's perfect. You see him go like that, and you think, oh, he's stepping on the puddles, and then he raises his arms, and it's like, oh, my God, that's great. Yeah. He even does that.
Yeah, that's cool. So this is probably sometime in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, I can't help but think of the thing he said, one of the last things he said to James Whale was, I am not your monster.
Yeah.
And basically, we are all the monster, aren't we, I guess?
Yeah, all the monsters are all in here. A
good cast is worth repeating. They just reproduced that last card from the Frankenstein movie.
Because they were set at the beginning and the end.
Mm-hmm. This was a complete pleasure for me to make a commentary track for this with you, and I just want to say thank you for suggesting this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really enjoyed watching it again.
Yeah, me too. It's a little tougher to stop ourselves from just watching the movie and not talking, but yeah.
And in this one, in this one, I try to refrain from just reading a lot of stuff from Clive Barker and just really talk more about what the movie means to us and what our impressions were about the movie, or my impressions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that said, I want to quote another Clive Barker thing here. He says, "Gods and Monsters was a very important picture. As a gay man, I wanted to do a gay movie about another gay man, James Whale. If I'm writing or illustrating or directing, it's my vision that carries the piece. If I'm producing, my job is to facilitate someone else's vision, and that's a very important function."
Mm-hmm.
And also, he said, "It's not a film that makes being gay look like a bed of roses. McKellen and I can both identify with that, and so could Whale. 3 gay Northern England lads, albeit several generations apart, who all found their way to Hollywood."
So James Whale was, yeah, right, of course he was British.
Ian McKellen said, "Normally English actors of my age have to play Nazis, or pretend to be Americans.
Oh.
So this was me being myself, as it were. I'm bringing one special person with me tonight. She's an absolutely delightful companion, and I look forward to getting to know Monica Lewinsky better." Oh, my God. This was from an interview with Mary Nightingale and Alistair Stewart at the English premiere at the Odeon, Leicester Square, London tonight.
Why was he talking about Monica Lewinsky?
I don't know. Someone asked him if he was bringing a guest with him, and he said yes. I have no idea. Maybe Monica Lewinsky was going to be in the panel at the show where they were interviewing him, so I don't know. I didn't see that second part of the quote coming, really.
Maybe it was was it a late night show and she was sitting by him on the
probably
couch or something?
Yeah, London Tonight, ITV.
Oh,
so
okay.
that was probably it.
I don't know how much was she in like the interview show circuit? I don't remember.
I honestly don't remember.
I mean, how much what did she have to say exactly?
I have no idea. So there you go. A lovely movie produced in association with BBC Films.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this wonderful movie that was a pleasure to watch. And I hope you will meet us again when we make another commentary track for what's going to be next. Pick one.
Well, I mean, maybe Sleepwalkers, or, we'll see if Hellraiser Judgment ever comes out. Maybe that one.
Yeah, whichever comes first, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's see.
And coming up next for actual numbered episodes, we've got we're going to be doing the A through Z of horror again next week, and then I think letters KLM. I think.
Did we do J already? Was it I for Innocence?
Yeah.
Right.
Wait.
L is for Lynch Mob.
Oh, yeah, we did that one. We stopped with L. So MNO is what we're doing next.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end.
And then we'll be talking about the body book after that.
That's right, because you have a copy and I don't. But we're going to talk about the stories, and we're going to talk about your impressions from the book. So thank you.
It's funny, I was actually going to skip reading the actual short stories and read all the supplemental material, but I got sucked into reading In the Flesh, and so now it's taking longer.
All right. Well, I got 2 hungry cats that I need to feed.
Yes.
And subsequently clean their poop after they eat. So, wish me luck with that. I guess I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. You can find the show notes for this page and lots of Clive Barker news and features at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave comments there or get them directly into the podcast by clicking the Send Voicemail tab on the right. Please follow us on Twitter at BarkerCast or at Occupy Midian. Like us on Facebook and join the Occupy Midian Facebook group. You can listen on the site or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and Double Twist. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Please take a couple of minutes to leave us a review on iTunes. It means the world to us and helps us spread the word about Clive Barker. The Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial fan site and podcast that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Films. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.